Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and these are going to be the hottest Golden Age comics of the week. It's a pretty interesting list, actually. These are all sales from eBay. I was actually going to mix in some sales from my comic shop and from Heritage Auctions, but the ones that were on eBay this week were just phenomenal. This was like a pretty interesting one. Some really major sales from some really key books that you just don't see that often. And I was surprised that they were sales on eBay. Let's get right into it. The first one is kind of one where I'm kicking myself about. It's Jumbo Comics number 121. It's from Fiction House, 1949. The reason I'm kicking myself about this book is it is the only, possibly, I think the only Matt Baker cover in Fiction House. And I was doing a live stream where I was talking about this very book. And I was asking, like, because we were doing this live stream about Fiction House, and I was asking, what if Matt Baker had ever done a Fiction House cover? Because I know that he had done Sky Girl in Jumbo Comics, and he was pretty active in that role. So I was curious, did he ever do a cover? Because he's known for his covers. He didn't, except for one book, and it was Jumbo Comics number 121. So this book we were discussing, and I saw that there was a listing on eBay. I was like, oh, okay, actually a pretty affordable price. And I was kind of like, I was just about to pull the trigger on it. I was like, trying to negotiate. I always try to get a deal. I don't know. It's a thing I do. I tried to write to the owner of the listing and say, hey, would you accept this slightly lower price? And I didn't hear back, and I was just sort of waiting to hear back. And then I was like, oh, I guess I'll just buy it. And then when I went to go buy it, it had sold. It had sold. I was like, oh, shoot, that sucks. So you snooze, you lose. Okay? So sometimes you just buy it. Just if it's a good deal, just buy it sometimes. Well, this was a 5.5 that sold, and it sold for $186, which I think is actually a pretty good deal. If you look at other Matt Baker covers, they go for a fair amount of money, just in even low grades. This is not one of the best Matt Baker covers, but it's the only Fiction House one, so it makes it kind of cool. This is a new record for this book. The previous record was set back in December of 2019 for $135.50. So this one, it's a new record, but I should have just bought it. It was a good price. It was actually a good price. I think this was a very fair price for the book. There's 21 of these on the census, and 20 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 9 on the list is Allstar Comics number 37. It is from DC Comics, 1947. It is a Irwin Hesson cover, and it's the first appearance of the Injustice Society. Now, another book I was just recently talking about. I was doing book club where I go on the Biggie Shack channel, and we talk about various books. And we were talking about Flash 137. And in Flash 137, the Flash and the Golden Age Flash go up against Vandal Savage, and they mention All-Star 37 inside the comic, so it's very interesting, because Vandal Savage was part of the Injustice Society. So very kind of an interesting book. I was saying I have a copy of this book, and it was just interesting to then see it sell on eBay. I was like, oh, that's very coincidental. It's not a book you see that often, and it just recently sold. This was a 2.0 that sold, and it sold for $649, which is a really good price. The previous record for this book was set back in May of 2021 for $660, so a little bit cheaper than what it had sold for 4 years ago. So not bad. Somebody did well on this one. There's 55 on the census, and 52 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 8 on the list is All American 89. This is from DC Comics, 1947. It's another Irwin Hasson cover, and it's the first appearance of Harlequin. Now, Harlequin is different than Harley Quinn. It's similar. This is kind of maybe her, golden age version, I would say. Very interesting character. She later marries the Green Lantern. Is it the Green Lantern she marries? I always forget. Who she marries. Yeah, I think it's the Green Lantern. I think she marries. Yeah, I had to think about it. Yeah, it's just a very cool character. She's actually dressed in the kind of clown costume. Very interesting character. This was a 5.0 that sold, and it sold for $899. It was a buy it now for that price. I think that was an opening bid, actually. I was just shocked that it sold that cheaply, actually. Very affordable price, because the previous record for this book was set back in November of 2020 for $1,440. So this was like $550 cheaper than the previous sale. The last sale, actually, was set back in, and it's for the same book. Last sale for the same book was set back in July of 2024, so just last year, like a few months ago, for $1,424. So somebody resold the book and lost $500. Ouch. That's pretty brutal. Great book. I guess people just didn't see it. Almost, again, snooze, you lose. Somebody got a great deal on this book. There's 49 of these on the census, and 46 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 7 on the list is Jumbo Comics number 20. This is from Fiction House, and it's a Joe Solardo cover. Now, there's nothing really special about this cover. It's got a Sheena cover, cool lion. Nothing really special about this particular issue. However, this was a 3.5 that sold for $800, which is a really high sale for this book. And you're probably wondering, why did it sell for so high? Well, it's actually a pedigree copy that sold, and it was the Cosmic Airplane pedigree. Now, if you're not familiar, the Cosmic Airplane pedigree is actually one of the more cool pedigrees. What it was there was this art teacher who was using comics as a way to teach art. And so they would make like a whole bunch of notations about, how to draw, and based, on the comics. And their collection of comics came up for sale at, they basically brought it in to this comic shop called the Cosmic Airplane. And that comic shop, because of the name, it got that pedigree. That was the pedigree, was based on the comic shop where these books had sold. And it's kind of one of the more cool ones, the fact that there's like these little notations and stuff. So this one had no previous sales. So this is the first time this book has sold on the census that we can see. And so it's a record by far. A 4.0, just to give you a comparison, a 4.0 recently sold back in May of 2024 for $564. So this 3.5 sold for like 50% more than the higher grade 4.0. And that just shows you the value of the pedigree, that people are willing to pay up for a kind of cool pedigree. And that's what they did. So $800, good price. There are 20 of these on the census, and 17 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 6 on the list is 4-Color 178. This is from Dell, 1947. It's Dan Gormley cover. It's the first appearance of Uncle Scrooge by Carl Barks. Major book for Disney collectors. Uncle Scrooge is kind of one of the more major characters. So definitely a major book. This was a 6.0 that sold, and it sold for $1,369. The previous record for this book was set back in February of 2023 for $1,750. Now, obviously, this is way down from that previous record. However, this book had kind of been on a bit of a downturn. That peak price was kind of like around like end of COVID. It was not a COVID price because it's after COVID, but it kind of was a peak price that was a little bit off. Because the book normally sold for around 1,000 to 1,100, and there was just this massive sale like 1,700. Because the last sale, if you look at the last sale for this book, which was in October of 2024, it sold for $960. Now, the same book, actually, if you look at when did this same book sell? Well, the same book sold back in July of 2024 for $1,005. It was on Hake's auction. So the same book sold, about a year ago, half a year ago, I should say. And whoever sold it made about 40%. So even though it's down from the high that this book had sold, the person that sold it themselves made about 40% on it. So not too bad. Always, it's always important to look into the numbers a little bit. So an interesting one. There's 327 of these on the census, and 312 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 5 on the list is Wonder Woman number 49 from DC Comics, 1951. It's a H.G. Peter cover, and it's one that was mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent. So Frederick Wortham, who wrote The Seduction of the Innocent, had real problems with Wonder Woman. He thought that Wonder Woman was promoting homosexuality and women loving women. They're in Wonder Woman 49. Wonder Woman adopts like a young girl, and he felt like the relationship between Wonder Woman and this young girl was inappropriate. So that's why it was mentioned in Seduction of the Innocent, that it's corrupting the minds of America. So yeah, this was a 9.0 that sold, and it sold for $2,150, which is a massive sale for this book. The previous record for this book was set back in October of 2021, right at the height of COVID, for $1,680. And that was around when the Wonder Woman movie was coming out. So there was a little bit of that hype. So that was a pretty massive sale even at that time. The book had actually sort of dipped after that sale. And the last sale for this book was set back in December of 2024. So just last month, for $1,443. So this is a 50% gain in 1 month. Huge sale, major record. There are 71 of these on the census, and 66 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 4 on the list is Fight Against Crime, number 20. This is from Story Comics, 1954. It is a cool cover. This is purely one of those ones that people buy for the cover because it is a classic decapitation cover where you have this woman in the red dress, and it's obvious that her head and body are not connected. It looks like the guy's trying to shove her down like a manhole or something. It's a really weird cover, and it's like holding her decapitated head. It is a really, really gruesome cover. Very desired by pre-code horror collectors, obviously. So this was a 2.5 that sold, and it sold for $4,350, which is actually down. This book had been fairly hot. It very desired book. It previously sold back in August of 2020 for $6,000. So it's actually down quite a lot from that previous record. The last sale was even stronger. The last sale was in March of 2021 for $5,400. So this is down quite considerably from those records, earlier records. I think somebody just wanted to get rid of this book, and they were willing to take a little bit of a cut on it. So, sometimes again, pretty awesome books come up, and you got to act on them quickly because it was a really great price. I didn't even see this one come up, actually. This is interesting because there was another one, just to kind of give it a little bit of context. There was one that I think it was like a 3.0, somewhere in that range, that the guy wanted 11,000 for it. And he gave I think it was originally listed at 12, and he said, "Oh, I'll take 11." That's how much this book normally goes for in that kind of higher price range. So this one, when somebody listed it at 43, somebody jumped on it because it seemed like such a great price compared to that other copy that was available. So again, snooze, you lose. This was a steal, actually. There's 82 of these on the census, and 78 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 3 on the list is Adventure Comics number 48. This is from DC Comics 1940. It's a Bernard Bailey cover, and it is the first appearance of Our Man. This is a comic that I've been kind of chasing after for a while and kind of wanted to get for a while, and to see it sell is always like, oh, I wish I could pick this up, but it was an expensive sale. This was a 3.0 that sold, and it sold for $5,185. A new record by far, just a massive sale for this book. The previous record for this book was set back in December of 2022 for $3,120. So up over 50%, huge sale. I think somebody kind of overpaid for this book, but man, really big sale. Interesting one. There are 61 of these on the census, and 35 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 2 on the list is another really, really big book, Black Cat Mystery number 50. This is one of the most desired pre-code horror covers. It is from Harvey, 1954. It's a Lee Elias cover, and it is the Radium cover. Now, by 1954, I mentioned this many times on this channel, the comics were getting more and more extreme. Now, this one has a guy eating radium and his face is melting. Just horrible, horrible cover. It's like his fingers are all melted. It's a really gruesome cover. And collectors of Golden Age, as I mentioned before, love that stuff. They love the gruesome stuff. They love the shock elements. And this is one of the most shocking covers of all time for the Golden Age. This was a massive sale too. This was a 2.5 that sold, and it sold for $11,500. Massive sale. The previous record for this book was set back in May of 2020 for $3,480. So about 3 times what it had sold for. Just a really, really big sale. Somebody must have really wanted this book. It is a harder book to find, actually, because it generally stays in people's collection and does not leave their collections. Definitely a very desired pre-code horror cover. There are 121 of these on the census, and 111 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 1 on the list is Detective Comics number 66. This is from DC Comics 1942. It is a Jerry Robinson cover, and it is the first appearance of Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. Very, very cool book. Sadly, he's not on the cover, but very key book. I mean, Two-Face is one of those major villains for Batman, and it's just a classic book. This is also the 3rd appearance of the Boy Commandos. That's maybe not as major of a key, but it is a pretty important book. This was a 7.0 that sold, and I was trying to find out what it sold for. I really don't know. It was one of those ones where it was a best offer that had been taken, and it was listed at $18,000. Now, I imagine it's going to be close to that number. I'm not sure how much of a discount they offered. I checked on GPA and I checked on Go Collect to see what the value was, and neither report the sale. So I don't know. I don't know what it sold for. The last sale, though, for this book was back in December of 2020 for $11,700. So This is well up based on what it potentially sold for from that sale. The last record, though, actually, for this book was set back in August of 2020, so earlier than the most recent sale, and that was $14,644. So if this book was anywhere between, let's say, 15,000 and 18,000, it set a new record. I have no idea what it sold for. If anyone knows or anyone bought this book, you can tell me in the comments below. I'd love to know what it actually sold for. But it was definitely a massive sale for a very key book. These books, you don't usually see them in this high grade. I mean, this is a 7.0. It was pretty good copy and major character. So there's 127 of these on the census, and 98 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So what did you think of this list? Have you ever experienced this? There was a bunch on this list where I felt like, oh man, I like snoozed and losed on them. Snoozed and lost. I don't know. There's just a bunch like that. Have you ever missed out on a really cool book that you wanted, that had you just pulled the trigger a little bit quicker? Tell me in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. Okay, thanks again for watching. Bye for now.